Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games Discord. We are playing live over the internet every Wednesday and Friday. You can join the fun. Follow the link in the description, and you can find yourself on camera here as well. Tony on Blue-Red Delver versus Ben on Burn. Tony going to be very familiar with Burn. It was actually his deck that got him back into Legacy a few years ago. Picked up Burn off of me. I think actually just a little bit before I opened up shop. Picked up the entire deck actually at my home. And has been able to do quite well with it and continue to evolve the deck into Blue-Red Delver, and now has put up some excellent results over time and can pretty much play whatever he wants in the Blue-Red Delver archetype. A lot of different variables there, things like Teferi, Dreadhorde Arcanist, Young Pyromancer, and varying numbers can make a massive difference when you're talking about a deck that has so much access to cantrips. Goblin Guide, responded to with Brainstorm. Oh, and further responded to with a Lightning Bolt, so that is kind of your worst case scenario for the Burn player, is giving the control player an extra card with very little upside. Lightning Bolt's so good. And now a follow-up creature, I believe that was Soulscar Mage, Force of Will, Pitching Ponder. Only 4 cards left for Burn. One thing that can happen with Burn is you can kind of audible into a control role in certain matchups where it just has all the removal in the world to handle cards like Delver of Secrets. And that is a dangerous thing for Burn to potentially do, as it is essentially a combo deck. I mean, you really want to just assemble 21 points of damage as quick as you can. And if you're using your Burn on creatures, it's got to be with a real purpose. Going upstairs with a 1-mana Burn spell. I'm not actually sure what it was. There's so many of them. I didn't recognize that art. Might have been Chain Lightning, might have been Lava Spike. And Accumulated Knowledge for 1. Accumulated Knowledge, pretty inefficient at first, but man, once you get to 2 or 3 even, it is really impressive. I mean, at 2 mana, it's a very good Magic card to get 2 cards. Instant speed and blue. I mean, it's really just that first AK that is lackluster. Anything from 2 on is just fine. An Accumulated Knowledge for 3 is practically an Ancestral Recall. And at 4 mana, or 4 copies, whew, I mean, 2 mana to draw 4 cards is pretty brutal. Now, he also has access to Mystic Sanctuary and Snapcaster Mage, which can really push this in a whole nother direction. Tony's list, very much something that he has continued to tune, and people are just generally never going to be prepared, as it's just not a stock list in any stretch. Got a Wasteland, along with Volcanic, Tundra, and Mystic Sanctuary. Skewer the Critics. Going to be fired off at the Delver of Secrets, and in response there's going to be a Lightning Bolt. So the Monastery Swiftspear enables the Skewer, and Burn kind of in that control realm right now, but again, it doesn't have a card to reload in all likelihood. Maybe he's got Light Up the Stage, we'll see. For the most part, Burn really doesn't have the ability to pull itself back into the game. If you get to the point where your opponent's sitting there at, more than 10 life and you've got very few cards at your disposal, it's going to be really tough to get there. Price of Progress does give you some potential outs, but Tony has a Wasteland, and as long as he doesn't tap it, he is going to be able to use that to blow up one of his own lands if need be, really diminishing the damage that Price of Progress will do. and another Wasteland will completely mitigate it altogether. We've got to Skewer the Critics. Which kind of looked like that first burn spell. Maybe there was a fetch land interaction that I missed there. A vanilla counterspell. Stopping Skewer. And now Fire Blast being thrown at the Dreadhorde Arcanist. And yeah, Burn has been somewhat forced into a control role here, perhaps. Maybe he just needed to go face the whole time and look to race these creatures, but AK for 2 now. And another Wasteland, and at this point, Price of Progress going to do very little. Tony can actually step all the way back down to 1 non-basic, and Lord help Ben if he actually has a Daze in hand. He could actually go down to 0. Oh, he's got a Daze. Just going to convert that into returning the Mystic Sanctuary. Tony just looking for some gas. AK put on top of the library. Swift Spear turning sideways, no follow-up. And now we've got an AK for 2 again. Ben's going to need, despite having a creature on board, it does feel like Ben is actually behind here. I know technically, if nothing changes, he will win the game, but I mean, chipping away 1 damage at a time is not going to get there realistically versus a deck like this. A Magmatic Sinkhole. Overkill on the Swift Spear, but again, with no presence on board, it's going to be tough. Eidolon. All right, this is legit. This will require an actual answer. No more dirtling for Tony. He's going to need to have an answer. And Daze is going to allow that. Painlessly. Daze can pick up that Mystic Sanctuary and now get the Magmatic Sinkhole back on top of the library. One of the few removal spells that actually doesn't take damage through a Eidolon. Most of the removal is, of course, going to be cheap. You always want cheap answers. And the 11 points of life that Tony has, now down to 8. A Fire Blast. Ooh, this is getting dangerous. This is getting real dangerous. Magmatic Sinkhole is going to be able to clear this Eidolon, but Tony's life really bled out quite a lot on that last turn with that Fire Blast and 4 damage from creatures. You do not want to be sitting at 3 against burn. Tony thinking through exactly which cards he wants to be exiling. Leaving the AKs in there. And a Young Pyromancer plus a Delver against a 1-card hand. 3 life. And then a hardcast Riftbolt. Oh, wow. Tony left with just a fistful of lands as Ben pulls that one out. I think that is incredible. That really, to me, felt like Ben was just behind the whole time until that Eidolon resolved and then Fire Blast resolving on the following turn. At that point, things were just completely out of control. A Force of Will and a Counterspell were played that game. And it'll be very interesting for Tony to look back and review his lines, I'm sure. A real student of the game, always trying to improve. And actually been putting up some great results lately. I believe he top 8'd a couple of the challenges with this list. Or, something similar. He's been constantly tweaking it, trying to adjust for the meta. So much flexibility within this shell. Just hard cast Rift Bolt, closing that out. I mean, Ben was flooded with mana, Fire Blasted twice, and still ended the game with 3 lands in play. But still managed to get there. Those answers not quite lining up ideally enough for Tony's Blue-Red Delver. And it felt a little bit like the tempo loss. I'm not sure that's the right term. Mystic Sanctuary didn't seem fast enough there in some regards. Getting a Magmatic Sinkhole on top for the next turn, just there, it's a little too slow. Especially given using daze and not getting value out of it, just essentially dazing just to return the Mystic Sanctuary and replay it. Of course, if you can daze and counter a spell, I'm absolutely on board. But that may have proven to be just a little bit too high a price when the top of the deck could be an answer or a way to get answers down the line. All right, mulligans not happening. Everybody keeping it 7. A little bit of shuffling, but we are ready to go. A Soul Scour Mage. This card more often seen in Modern. And Tony having none of it. Lightning Bolt clearing the dangerous 1-drop with Lightning Bolt. Main phase not messing around, letting any type of chance of it getting outside of bolt range. And Stifle. What is this? Stifle stopping a Bloodstain Mire. Looks like a new uncommon. I do not know what it is. Some type of direct damage that did 3, I guess. I wonder if that's the same card that I missed earlier. I mean, Light Up the Stage has that little circle on it. We'll see. I guess Wizards of the Coast just bought an app to play through. We're playing through Discord, but I am going to take a look and see about that other app, which is also free. I guess it has technology to hover over the cards and see what they are. Very dangerous card here with Eidolon. This gets dazed, actually countering it this time. Now another basic land coming down. Very likely that Tony's going to have a real reason to play a non-basic. Another 3 damage sorcery. And Aria. What is that? Aria of Flame? The Modern Horizons card? I think it is. Let's see if I can find this. Yeah, that looks like Aria of Flame to me. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent gains 10 life, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a verse counter on it. It then deals damage equal to the number of verse counters on it to target player or planeswalker. That is going to make all of Tony's brainstorms, ponders, counter spells, removal spells, all of it is going to just continue to pile counters on top of this enchantment, undoing that life gain pretty quickly. So Ben at 29, Ponder, doing 1. And when you've got an Aria of Flame down, you're going to be totally content to cantrip into more cantrips. Accumulated Knowledge. It's going to be 2 damage during the end step. Now a Brainstorm for 3 damage. And Ben seems to be out of gas here. Is he going to have some end step effects? What is going on with Burn and 3 untapped lands? No, just doing absolutely nothing with his mana. An end step. Tony fetching. And Snapcaster Mage. Got to imagine we're going to see some card drawing here. No, he's actually going to go Bolt. So a 7 damage Lightning Bolt. He may have pretty close to lethal assembled. Now the Lightning Bolt should be exiled. It was flashed back with Snapcaster Mage. 2 damage coming in. A 5 damage Brainstorm. And now a 9 damage Lightning Bolt. And an Accumulated Knowledge in response. I mean, this is going to be very, very lethal. Force and Daze left over as Tony picks that one up quite easily with Aria of Flame, but it's a curious draw. I'm really wondering what Ben had in his hand there that he was unable to make use of his mana, both in his main phase and during his opponent's end step. I mean, it's one thing to pass with your mana open versus a Delver strategy, potentially representing effects like Red Elemental Blast or Pyroblast, and still having end step effects. Maybe it was a bunch of... Oh, because Snapcaster Mage stuck around for a little bit. I was going to say maybe it was a bunch of like Searing Blazes and the like. Searing Blood, Searing Blaze, things that have to hit a creature. I'm curious. We'll see what Ben can do here. Probably has to be careful about a card like Sulfuric Vortex, often sideboarded in against control strategies. That card prevents all life gain and then does 2 damage to each player does 2 damage to a player during their upkeep. So it kind of creates inevitability and prevents life gain. Definitely strong versus strategies that have access to Stoneforge Mystic. And so far, I mean, we've seen a white splash, so I guess technically this is actually Jeskai Delver. I've been referring to it as blue-red because it shares the most DNA with that deck. Scalding Tarn. Facing down against a Monastery Swift Spear. 3 damage from whatever this card is. Let me know in the comments. I'm like genuinely curious now. Swords to Plowshares being thrown out in response to the Prowess trigger. And yeah, we really properly, I mean, at this point, Swords to Plowshares has been played. Actual white card So Jeskai more accurate, and meaning that Tony has quite a lot of removal here. We've seen the bolts, there's also swords, Mystic Sanctuary coming into play tapped, and a lightning bolt thrown out during the end step. Tony down to 12. Definitely an underwhelming turn when you play a land tapped. And here is a Eidolon of the Great Revels with a mana to potentially pay for a Daze. It's going to be Hardcast Force. Pitching Daze. Oh, does he have Reb backup? He does. He has a Pyroblast, and that Daze has already been pitched, but he's got another one. And that clears the table. Spirit Guide I would have lost it. That would have been ridiculous. Just paying the one for Daze with Spirit Guides is one of the filthier things that you can do in Magic. After that big battle, Ben top decking a Goblin Guide. He turns sideways and reveals a Ponder. Going down to 9. And this guide has to be answered. Teferi. That is not an answer. Teferi, I guess here, just going to tick up. Not going to get a card out of him just yet. A Monastery Swift Spear. 3 damage. And a Skewer the Critics post-combat, putting Tony down to just 3, facing down lethal. Bouncing Hasty Creature is not exactly exciting. We've got a Ponder. This game may be too far gone for him. This will be a very quality win here for Benjamin. His first time playing with us. I believe his first time playing with us, to take down an accomplished streamer here. Tony Scapone is his his streamer name? Screen name? I don't actually know what you'd call it on Twitch. And it looks like we're entering the scoop phase here. Monastery Swift Spear has been bounced and replayed. Sending. Swords to Plowshares takes out the Goblin Guide. Alright, it's not quite over yet. Down to 2 life. There'll be no shenanigans on Tony's turn, thanks to Teferi's static ability. But I mean, if you've got it, you've got it. Any burn. Down to 1. And now Skewer the Critics shows just no red mana for the removal. Wow. Burn getting there in a, I think, excellent match. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.